Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into the reactions surrounding one specific Premier League game, Aston Villa against Tottenham.
Yeah, should be interesting.
We've got some great stuff to work with here. Fan comments from BBC Sport, plus those did you know stats that always add a bit of context.
Absolutely. Those fan reactions, they give you the real pulse, don't they?
Yeah,
And then the stats ground it.
exactly. So our mission really is to see what this single game's aftermath tells us. About where both Villa and Spurs are right now and maybe where they're headed.
Yeah. Looking beyond just the scoreline to the bigger picture for each club.
Okay, let's kick off with the Villa fans. Looking through these comments, the general feeling seems, well, pretty positive.
Yeah, definitely leaning that way.
Rob's comment, for instance, he calls it a thoroughly professional display. That word professional, it kind of stands out.
It does. It suggests something maybe different from Villa in the past. Like more control, especially in that second half you mentioned.
Right, like Emery's brought a new level of game management. Maybe less fragile than the Villa of old he talks about.
That seems to be the sense, yeah. It's not just winning, but how they're winning now.
Yeah.
Tactically smarter, maybe. More resilient.
But then you get Simon's comment bringing in a note of worry about the Martinez injury.
Yeah. That definitely tempers the mood a bit.
You can feel the concern there, calling him a Villa legend. It shows how important these key players become, doesn't it? Beyond just, their skills.
Totally. Martinez has that connection. It's his saves, sure, but it's also his whole attitude on the pitch. Leadership, passion. Fans really respond to that. He sort of embodies their fight.
Then Ian talks about a nervy first half.
Which seems fair.
But then a well-deserved win eventually. And what really comes through is the confidence about the Champions League spots, summed up by that phrase, "In Unai we trust." That seems huge right now for Villa fans.
That trust is definitely a recurring theme. It's built on results, isn't it? Seeing the team overcome that initial tension Ian mentioned and finishing strongly, that reinforces the belief in Emery.
Paul's comment adds a bit more nuance, though.
Okay.
He praises Emery, getting Europe 3 years running, which is impressive.
Yeah.
But he also mentions earlier inconsistencies, those meltdowns. So it's not all just unchecked optimism.
Right. Keeping things in perspective, recognizing the progress, but also acknowledging where they've maybe dropped points or looked shaky before. That's a fair assessment.
And he throws in that idea about Spurs maybe having one eye on their final, lacking a bit of desire.
Yeah, that's always a possibility, isn't it? Hard to know for sure how much a looming final impacts a league game, but it's a factor fans consider.
And supporting this positive Villa trend, we've got that "did you know" stat.
Yes, the points tally.
Since the start of March, Villa have picked up more points than anyone else in the Premier League. 24 points from 9 games.
Wow, that's massive. 8 wins and 1 loss in that period.
Yep.
That really underlines the form they're in. It's not just a feeling. The data backs it up. What's driving that, do you think?
Well, tactically, Emery seems to have found a really effective balance. Solid midfield, clear ways of attacking, getting the best out of Watkins.
Speaking of Watkins.
Yeah, and there's just a confidence, a collective understanding maybe. They seem to know the plan, and they're executing it really well, consistently.
And we also saw that Ollie Watkins is now Villa's all-time top Premier League goal contributor, goals and assists combined.
Another big milestone.
Yeah, cements his place in their history, doesn't it? Similar to the legend status Simon gave Martinez, but from an attacking point of view.
Exactly. Consistent high performance over time. That's what builds that kind of legacy and deepens the fan connection.
Okay, right. Let's switch over to the Tottenham side. Because the atmosphere in these comments is, well, it's starkly different.
Yeah, you could say that. A lot more negative.
Andy's comment is striking. He says even though it was almost a nothing game for them because of the final,
There's this feeling that something is fundamentally wrong. He even worries that getting into the Champions League could make things worse, possibly lead to relegation.
wow, that's a really dark view. Relegation fears even when potentially qualifying for the Champions League.
It suggests a really deep lack of faith, doesn't it? Like, the problems run much deeper than just current league position. What causes that level of pessimism?
I think it points to a belief that the squad, or maybe the whole setup, just isn't equipped for that top level consistently. A fear that the underlying issues, tactical, structural, whatever they are so significant that even success could expose them further. It's a profound lack of confidence in the club's direction.
And Roger really doubles down on that. Another shambolic, totally disorganized, lackluster performance.
Strong words.
Very strong. He's calling out the management, the coaching, demanding wholesale changes to avoid, again, relegation next season. The frustration is just pouring out.
Yeah, that kind of language, shambolic, disorganized, suggests fans just aren't seeing a clear plan or any sign of basic competence on the pitch sometimes. It's that feeling of watching the same mistakes, maybe? Lack of structure, defensive errors, no attacking threat. It breeds real anger.
Mish puts it more simply. It's been the same our season we look lost.
That lost feeling again.
Yeah, it seems to be a common thread. Plus the inevitable mention of yet more injuries. What does that feeling of being lost suggest about the team's identity or tactics?
It usually points to a lack of clarity, doesn't it? Players may be unsure of their roles, systems not working or not being applied consistently, leads to disjointed play, poor decision-making, and yeah, the constant injuries just make it impossible to build any kind of rhythm or understanding.
Norman offers a tiny bit of hope from the first half, mentioning some younger players.
Okay, a slight positive.
But then slams the second half as dreadful. And crucially, he wants a managerial change and thinks the season's a failure regardless of the Europa League final.
Right. So even a potential trophy doesn't change his overall assessment of the season's trajectory.
That's pretty damning, isn't it? Especially with silverware still technically on the table.
It really is. It suggests the dissatisfaction with the league performance and the general direction outweighs even the prospect of winning a European competition. Fans see deeper issues that a cup win alone wouldn't fix, perhaps.
And then there's the final did you know fact, which kind of hammers it home.
The losses record.
Yeah. Tottenham have equaled their club record for the most losses in a single season across all competitions. 25 defeats, matching 1991-92.
Oof, that's stark. You can't argue with that statistic.
It really validates the fans' negativity, doesn't it? It's not just perception. The results have genuinely been historically poor in terms of losses.
Absolutely. That number tells a story of significant, consistent underperformance throughout the campaign. It's a concrete measure of just how difficult the season has been.
So when you put the two sets of reactions and stats side by side, it's just, such a contrast.
It really is stark.
Villa fans, largely optimistic, seeing progress, trusting the manager, genuinely excited about maybe getting Champions League.
Clear upward trend.
Spurs fans, expressing deep, fundamental worries, lack of direction, poor performances, even relegation fears floating around despite that final. It's like two different worlds.
It is, yeah. You wonder if Villa's obvious improvement under Emery almost makes it worse for Spurs fans. Like, it highlights what's possible with the right leadership and structure.
That's a good point. It provides a direct, maybe painful comparison.
Yeah, it could definitely amplify the frustration when you see another club seemingly getting things right while yours is struggling.
So that Europa League final for Spurs becomes this massive thing now, doesn't it?
Huge focal point.
Could winning it actually mask some of these deeper issues, you think? Or will the fans' concerns just bubble back up pretty quickly?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look, winning a trophy is always great, provides a boost, changes the immediate story. But based on these comments, the worry seems so ingrained, so fundamental, that you suspect even lifting that cup might not be enough to fully restore faith or address the long-term anxieties about the team's direction and underlying problems. More changes might still be seen as necessary.
It just shows the pressure cooker environment of the Premier League, really. How one game can express so much about the feeling around a club.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fan reactions are so immediate, so passionate, they really are a barometer, aren't they? For better or worse, every single match feels like it carries enormous weight.
So, wrapping this up then, our deep dive into this Villa Spurs game, the fan chat, the stats, it paints this picture of two clubs on really different paths right now.
Absolutely.
Villa, strong form, clear direction under Emery, real optimism bubbling up.
Yep, looking up.
Tottenham, despite a final appearance, grappling with some serious concerns about performance, identity, and where they're actually heading. Lots of worry there.
A clear contrast. Optimism in Birmingham, much more anxiety in North London, backed up by the stats we saw.
Which brings us to a final thought for you listening. We see these intense, immediate fan reactions all the time. But how well do you think that immediate sentiment, that post-match high or low, actually reflects the real long-term health of a club? Are there other things, maybe less obvious than the last result, that give a better clue about future success or failure? Things like finances, structure, youth development.
It's a great question. How much weight should we give the immediate emotional response versus those slower burning underlying
It's
factors?
definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.